will
Yeah.
prove Satan wrong. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing I can't get any Adventists to actually agree on. They go, this group cannot fail. And I go, if they cannot fail, they're not proving Satan's claim. That last group must have the possibility of failing
Yep.
to therefore prove Satan wrong and vindicate God to the heavens, the other planets, and all the angels.
Yep.
This is the point of Adventism. This is the journey of getting ready. This is why now you practice keeping the Sabbath. This is why you practice being as sinless as possible, because when probation closes, if you're on that righteous team, if you have the seal, you have to stand for a little while sinless.
Yep.
Now, I cannot get any Adventists to agree with that. They go, oh, no. All Adventists, progressive, conservative, whatever, say, no. At that point, there's a victory because the righteous will be righteous. Dennis Priebe says, no, they've got the seal. And I use the example of they're the final team for the grand super final, the last game ever. There's the righteous and the non-righteous. They can still lose, but they are the sealed team. They have the seal. They're not sealed yet. They'll only be sealed when they win. And they cannot vindicate God then. So I think Dennis Priebe is correct that they have to have the ability to fail.
Yeah, correct. This is not wrong, but this just tells you that Adventists don't understand Jesus. Because the same thing had to happen with Jesus. In order for Jesus to be the perfect sacrifice, there had to be, as human, there had to be some possibility that he could fail. So what Ellen White is simply saying by her vision is this is going to be replicated in the eschatological sense. That's all she's saying. She's saying that the victory that Jesus did, being led by the Holy Spirit and listening to the perfect guidance of God, not by his will, but the Father's, that the last at the very end will replicate the same thing. That's all it is. You don't have to believe it, but that's exactly what it is.
Yes, good. And I've looked deeply
but I'm sorry,
into...
I gotta say this, but Adventists will abuse that and be like, exactly your point. It becomes like a legalistic thing where you got to prep yourself like you're doing CrossFit exercising and stuff, not realizing that it's supposed to be the Holy Spirit that moves in you, that creates the miracle at the eschatological time. And it turns into a works-based cult mentality.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
And
I agree with that.
And if, though, that they say that they can't fail, the whole plan of salvation is pointless, because they have to still be able to fail. So even though the Holy Spirit has done the best job and worked through them, and they now have the ability to not sin, they have a chance of still failing. And therefore, you can see why people take a legalistic notion to it. Because if I can still fail, it means I'm still got my hand in it somehow.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's because Jesus wasn't mediating for himself.
Yeah.
You see, you only have the Father and the Holy Spirit. So all they're saying is that these end people will do the same thing Jesus did by having the Father leading by the Holy Spirit.
Thank you. Now, those watching, let me just speak to you for a second. What I've just said is not what I believe. I've simply assessed accurately what real Adventists believe. If you don't believe that and say to me, that's not my Adventism, then you have not understood the very core reason for being that Adventism came into existence. The whole point of Adventism is to get you to that point where you are on the last team and you don't sin, even though you still might, and Jesus is not there as an intercessor. I don't believe it, but I'm saying that is the reason that the whole of Adventism came into being, for that moment, to vindicate God. And you out there saying, oh, that's not my Adventism. Okay, choose whatever definition or style of
Yeah.
Adventism you want, but you have just fallen into cultural Adventism, progressive Adventism. It is not Adventism as taught clearly by Ellen G.
Yeah.
White from the 1844 to her last breath. So those that are, uphold that teaching, all I say is good on you for assessing the material accurately, and thank you for being honest. And progressives, you need to take a good, solid look at your Adventism if you think that you can make your Adventism fit into that kind of Adventism, because you can't. It is chalk and cheese. And I just want to bring up, before I finish my little rant there, thank you, Jude. No, Christ died at the cross, paid the price, and at that moment of his last breath, it is finished. The curtain at the temple was ripped from top to bottom. How clear is that? Jude, I agree with you. Thank you. That's very substantial. Thank you for saying that. I believe that all of Adventism's special plan is absolutely off the rails and blasphemous. However, people who assess it the way I just have nailed real Adventism and should shout it from the rooftops. Adventist Defense League, I don't know, Matt, if you believe in that assessment, I think you do. Shout it from the rooftops. It is your birthright. And progressives, stop unraveling Adventism with your crazy oil and water mixing.
Nobody's going to disagree that Jesus is our intercessor. Like, I don't know any denomination that disagrees that Jesus is the intercessor, which is what the high priest's role is.
No, but Ellen says that for a short time he will remove his intercessory role.
Well, correct. So, and that's the question. That's the question. When does that is true no matter what you believe. It has to stop at some point. And so Ellen White is trying to answer that question. Well, when does it stop? And then what happens after it stops? I mean, it has to stop. Jesus doesn't have to be our intercessor after we're resurrected in our glory, in full glory, and in his presence.
But you haven't been resurrected in full glory yet, because there's still a chance you can fail. So there's a time period that Adventists teach that I think is unbiblical. There's a time period where Christ removes himself as intercessor pre-second coming.
Yeah,
the Bible doesn't teach that, but Ellen White has seen it in vision. So to say she's wrong is to say she made some false claims.
Well, I mean, you're right. It doesn't explicitly say that, but it does show that he does declare, like you said, he does declare, let the righteous be righteous, right? And then it does show that he does come down to resurrect us. So what Adventism is doing is trying to fill in that gap, right? Like, okay, so if he's declaring the righteous is going to be righteous still, and then he comes, well, then who's doing the intercessory work? Well, it's got to be the Holy Spirit. It's only the Holy Spirit. And so if you're listening to the Father alone and with no intercessor, then you're doing what Christ effectively told us to do, right? Was to be led as he, right? Be perfect as he was perfect. And so it's a miracle. It's basically an end time miracle that she's claiming is going to happen. Will it? I guess we'll have to wait and see. It ain't going to be me.
And yeah,